All right, time for one of the quintessential episodes that makes you question why the Prime Directive exists. Why? Because the Enterprise comes into a solar system because they're investigating a series of planetary breakups and trying to figure out why the planets in this sector of space have been having breakups. Well, they get to Drama 4 and make contact with Sarjenka. Which is one of those things you're just like, wait a second, why is Data talking to Sarjenka when the crew of the ship hasn't officially made contact with them? Yeah, good luck with that. We don't know. But he does. And they kind of sort of use that as an excuse to say the Prime Directive doesn't apply because the people of the planet were behaving as though they had reason to believe there were extraterrestrial forces out there, even if, you know, the people were a pre-warp civilization. The part where it gets interesting, though, is the whole, like, having to figure out how to make the planet not explode thing. Because it's a method of doing, like, artificial geological stabilization. And the sci-fi nonsense here is that the planet was vibrating in a way that was starting to shake it apart. And that if they don't stop that, then the whole thing will explode, and then the people living on it will die. Well, their conclusion is to make it vibrate even more, but do so in a way that'll make it so that it's not vibrating in sync, and thus the vibrations will fizzle out instead of intensifying to the point where they cause it to shatter. Or that was their explanation for what they did anyways. Now, using this in a TTRPG, this is a pretty classic example of the whole, oh, hey, look, a local planet has a problem and they need help trope, which gets done a lot, honestly. And the nature of this particular problem is cataclysmic, but, you know, if you're doing it in your TTRPG, you don't necessarily need to go so far as to say that the planet will explode and everyone will die. Because, you know, that is exceptionally dramatic. You could go with something less cataclysmic. Like, you know, widespread earthquakes and something. I mean, you could just have a series of earthquakes of increasing intensity where it's triggering more earthquakes, but, you know, have it eventually fizzle out after it's, you know, leveled most of the planet's population. Anyway. So, using this in a TTRPG is obviously one of those things where the prime focus of that particular module you're writing would be to have an emergency that the players need to find a way to fix. This specific emergency from the episode is cataclysmic, but like I said before, you could dial it down to be slightly different. I mean, like in one case in Star Trek, the emergency was that they realized that there was a planet's moon that was like, well, they'd known that the planet's moon was slowly getting closer to it. It's just that someone had recently re-evaluated all of the data they'd collected and realizing that the reason, if I remember correctly anyways, I didn't look this one up, but realized that the moon was accelerating and getting faster, in its procession of slowly colliding or getting ready to collide with the planet it was orbiting. Well, that was a Q episode, and the whole point of that episode was one of the other Q was harassing the John Delancey Q while he was stuck in human form, because this was something that if Q had had his powers, he'd just be able to snap his fingers and make the problem go away. But he doesn't have his powers, so he needs to figure out how to solve the problem using the resources available to the crew of the USS Enterprise D. Yeah, that was a different example of this sort of thing. And in that case, you know, since that one was a Q plot, you could always just reveal that, you know, having the crew fail and like, oh no, it's about to collide, and then have it just suddenly not be there. Because again, it was a Q plot, and you can always just reset Q plots. Actually, one thing I think that's interesting with disaster episodes is that if you set the disaster as a holodeck simulation, or if it's actually a Q plot, you can actually in universe just reset the event and have people try stuff over again to see if they can figure out what the problem is. And, you know, that is actually an idea you could do, is having the players do a holodeck recreation of a event from the Federation's past that a crew of a ship had to deal with. And the point of the simulation was to see if you could find a solution that is either better than the one that the original group did, or just, you know, attempt to do something different that might work in a different way with different resources. At any rate, though, it's because of the fact that this is a threat where failure means someone else is in trouble. Very changes the dynamic of it, because the players are problem solving. They're not like, oh no, the Klingons are firing at us. No, there's none of that. They're not in danger, but they have a reason to act quickly. Anyways, though, so the whole idea of the Prime Directive actually is also another thing, is that the Prime Directive has a very complex logic to it, at least if you look at the way it's been portrayed over the years as a cohesive whole, because of the fact that, I mean, realistically, it's a bureaucratic nonsense. So having people like Sarjenka here being affected by the Prime Directive is kind of strange logically, simply because of the fact that she didn't sign on to being affected by the Prime Directive. She has no reason to value the Prime Directive. But the people in the Federation have decided that they want to impose the Prime Directive on her, which is an interesting juxtaposition, because, oh, we're doing this for your benefit, which it's for your good, and oh wait, you're going to die if we actually do that. Yeah. And that is the focus of almost every Prime Directive influenced episode. It is almost never actually used in the show as a good thing. It's usually used as an excuse for the heroes to not do something, or There is one episode, and that was one with the Ornarans, where they actually invoked the Prime Directive as a reason to not help a previously warp-capable civilization by saying, oh, well, you're no longer a warp-capable civilization, so we're going to leave you to die now. And yeah, Prime Directive episodes. Oy. The logic is painful trying to do that. But anyways, that's enough for now. See you next time.